Alright, buckle up, because Anthony's journey to Planet Wife with No Soul is about to get spectacularly absurd. Having exposed Mayor Modello's profound Modello complex, a condition characterized by delusions of grandeur, a penchant for ill-fitting gold-plated jumpsuits, and the firm belief that his hair gel was a sentient being, Anthony, the tall, handsome data engineer, found himself holding the infamous map. It depicted Wacko's Radish Ranch, a place that sounded less like a farm and more like a fever dream. Planet Wife with No Soul, Anthony muttered, staring at the coordinates. 17 galaxies. Of course it is. He boarded one of Modello's abandoned, glitter-encrusted spaceships, the SS Ego Trip, naturally, and with a sigh that could have powered a small star, he punched in the coordinates. The ship lurched, played a tinny rendition of I Will Survive, and then vanished in a shower of holographic confetti. 17 galaxies later, Anthony landed on a planet that looked suspiciously like a slightly dusty backyard. There, amidst a landscape of wilted lollipop trees and marshmallow clouds, was Wacko's Radish Ranch. 17 rose bushes, Anthony murmured, counting. Check. Banana tree, shade only, check. And, oh dear, a 4-foot-high pile of fertilizer loomed before him, and a figure in a perpetually askew Santa hat was indeed flinging buckets of water at it. It was Wacko, naturally. Ah, Anthony, she exclaimed, her voice a cheerful, high-pitched warble. Welcome to the Radish Ranch, where the radishes sing and the rabbits, well, they donate generously. Anthony, ever the logician, raised an eyebrow. Generously? That pile looks more like a geological formation. Oh, those are the philanthropists' donations. Wacko beamed, gesturing at the mountain of, let's call it, organic material. They're from old New England money, you know. Colonials. Victorian homes. They summer in the Hamptons. They're very particular about their kibble, and their droppings. Michelin star rabbit kibble, always white tablecloth. Very generous. They are also regulars on Antiques Roadshow as historical docents. Anthony blinked. Michelin star? Rabbit kibble? And they're historical docents? Indeed. Wacko nodded vigorously. They have exquisite taste. And their droppings are essential for my urban garden. I coax beets, turnips, tomatoes, snow peas, and ayahuasca out of this heavy clay soil, all thanks to them. He looked around. There were no beets, turnips, tomatoes, or snow peas. There were, however, a lot of dandelions and society garlic, which Wacko was apparently harvesting from the Monterey Park Invasive Species Preservation Center. Speaking of which, Wacko continued, pulling a particularly stubborn dandelion, I remember planting my first radish. I was 3, you know. The seeds were like tiny, dull-colored dots, but oh, the magic. They became round, red orbs that bit back on being tasted. I remember every detail, every nuance, like it was yesterday. I was in love, from the very first, with the magic of tiny, dull-colored dots becoming round, red orbs that bit back on being tasted. Anthony, whose data-driven brain was now experiencing a full-scale meltdown, decided to investigate the philanthropist rabbits. He followed a trail of suspiciously pristine white tablecloths to a row of cages. Inside, he found ordinary rabbits, munching on ordinary rabbit pellets. No white tablecloths, no Rolls-Royce Phantom, no gala attire, no Antiques Roadshow. Just rabbits, and a truly terrifying amount of droppings, none of which had been generously donated anywhere but under their own cages. Wacko, Anthony said, returning to the Fertilizer Mountain, these rabbits, they're not exactly living the high life. Wacko's smile faltered. Nonsense. They're just resting. They've had a busy week of galas and historical docenting. Suddenly, a loud rumbling sound echoed through the ranch. The Fertilizer Mountain began to tremble. Oh dear, Wacko said, her eyes widening. It seems that generous donations are reacting to the water. The mountain erupted, sending a tidal wave of fertilizer cascading across the ranch. The force of the eruption sent the fake banana tree flying, and the 17 rose bushes were covered in the generous donations. The rabbits, startled, began hopping in a chaotic frenzy, creating a furry, droppings-flinging whirlwind. Wacko, her Santa hat askew, began shouting, it's the undeniable changes in growth patterns and yields. It's permaculture. It's the heat and water restrictions. It's the rodents. Anthony, covered in fertilizer and rabbit droppings, watched as Wacko's delusions collapsed around her. Her overcompensating stories, her generous rabbits, her master gardener certificate that was no longer valid, all of it was exposed. "You know," Anthony said, wiping a glob of fertilizer from his face, "maybe you should stick to, I don't know, reality?" Wacko, however, was beyond reason. She began flinging buckets of fertilizer at the escaping rabbits, screaming about undeniable changes and philanthropic donations. The whole planet seemed to be descending into a chaotic, fertilizer-fueled madness. Anthony, realizing that logic and reason were no match for Wacko's delusional egomania, decided it was time to leave. He boarded the SS Ego Trip, punched in the coordinates for Oompa Loompa Land, and vanished in another shower of holographic confetti. As he flew away, he could still hear Wacko's voice echoing through the cosmos. "It's the rodents. They're infesting the entire neighborhood. They're deflecting. They're attaching others." Anthony sighed. Some data anomalies, he realized, were simply too illogical to be corrected. And some people were just destined to live in their own, fertilizer-filled fantasy worlds.